KHRO Fox Oldies 1150 AM. Welcome back to the show with Hector and Abel. Man, that first hour was fun, and now we're going to get an education. Anyway, 880-4376 is the number to join in on the conversation. We had a lot of activity on Facebook about all kinds of stuff, so hopefully we'll get some new callers. If you are a new caller, we'll bring you to the front and put you on first. 880-4376 is the number.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our next guest, someone that we've had with us before. I'd like to welcome you back, Dee Margo.
Thank you, Hector.
Now you're the president. Of course, you're a former state representative. Now you're the president of the Board of Managers, the state-appointed Board of Managers of the El Paso Independent School District. Before we talk about the school district, Dee, let me ask you, any possibility that you might do a fourth election, a fourth run for state representative, or are you not ready to talk about that?
I'm not certain what's going to happen.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and stick then with the issues relating to El Paso Independent School District. Why don't you just kind of give our listeners an overview of what you have been doing as the president of the Board of Managers and what the Board of Managers is currently involved in?
Well, just by way of a timeline, we were appointed back in, I think officially in January or the end of December. And the Department of Justice, because of the former rules to the Voter Rights Act, required a 60-day look-see, so to speak, and waiting time. So we went through that, and then the existing Board of Trustees, at the end of that 60-day period, filed a protest with the Department of Justice,
right,
and also with the TEA, Texas Education Agency. And so that further delayed our appointment as a Board of Managers. We were sworn in on May the 8th of this year. The problem with that is that we the first priority we had to deal with was the budget, the tax rate and the budget. We did not increase the tax rate, nor would we have. But the budget, we had to pretty much take at face value from staff presentations, and we would have liked to have gotten into delved into the budget numbers in a little bit more greater degree and fashion, but you're
under a deadline.
Well, but we had a deadline of June 30th. So first thing we did was we have approved the budget. As I said, there was no tax rate increase at all. The budget is about, for your listeners, the budget's almost $500 million. I like to
more than any other government entity.
Well, just about. It actually, when you take their fund balance, which is their reserve funds, which is something in excess of $85 million, $88 million, it's closer to a $600 million revenue organization. So it's like as I tell people, it's like a Fortune 1000 company. There are 9,000 employees. There are 62,000 students, and there are untold hundreds of thousands of what you would call stakeholders or shareholders in my vernacular, who are the parents and those of us who live in EPISD. And those of us who live in the El Paso Independent School District, the largest item we pay on our tax bill is EPISD taxes.
I know that.
So, yeah, me too. So it's like having a Fortune 1000 company with the size and the budget of almost $600 million. And I'm using that to describe, and so our role is to act very similar to have a fiduciary responsibility, very similar to a member of a board of directors. And so we're taking that very seriously. And the first thing we did was the budget, and number two, we've been working on hiring a replacement superintendent. Mr. Vern Butler's done an excellent job as an interim, and he has agreed to stay on through October. Originally, he was going to leave on June 30th, and we are so pleased that he decided to stay. But we have about half of the cabinet or the assistant superintendents, 3 or 4 of them, and the secondary ed and elementary ed assistant superintendents, they're all interim. They're all former retirees who've come back to help out. So we have to find a suitable superintendent, someone who has character and is committed long-term to this community. And secondly, that person will have to replace a great number of the members of his cabinet. or her cabinet, whichever the case may be. So we're kind of in limbo. I told.
But you're going to leave those hirings for that new superintendent.
If we can come up with the proper superintendent in the near future, but it may be that because of timing or replacements, we need to move ahead. For instance, our former in-house counsel, which we're now elevating to a general counsel role, has left. She left in July.
Right.
And so we've got that position, and we'll be recruiting for that. But that's a key position, and we may have to go ahead and do this. But the Board of Managers, who I'm very pleased to work with, and each of us are taking our responsibilities very seriously and studying and working very hard, and I'm pleased to have with Dr. Blanca Enriquez and Carmen Arieta Candelaria, who knows finances in and out, Mr. Ed Archuleta, former head of the Public Service Board, the PUC, and the water utilities, and Judy Castleberry, who was the monitor, who comes with a great pedigree, great experience coming out of San Antonio, and the five of us are busting it, trying to get our hands around it. But our role, we want to be more macro than we want to be micro.
Right.
However, to a certain extent, given what we've walked into, we sometimes have to be into the weeds a little bit more than we would like to otherwise, given all the nature of the interim positions and where we are and what's our responsibility. But we're moving ahead.
Now, Dr. Blanca Enriquez comes with a very good set of a very good toolbox, a very good set of skills running the Region 19 Head Start.
Right.
And I'm just curious, what is the other than you guys did the budget and all that? What is the pressing thing right now? You got to fill the superintendent, but I mean, dealing with this, with the problem of the students, what is the pressing thing right now?
Well, our pressing priority is still the superintendent. We've been in interviews. We were in interviews yesterday. I think we're getting closer. We've gone through 17 applicants.
Now, some people ask about whether there might be a non-traditional kind of candidate eligible to be superintendent, say a business person or something like that. But it's my understanding that in Texas, the superintendent must be credentialed. Is that correct?
You can hire a non-traditional superintendent for 2 years, and you can conceivably have an additional 1-year waiver. So you've got a 3-year window for that person to become credentialed as a superintendent.
I see.
And there are the Broad Institute out in California does that, and
but in the end, that person, even if they were from outside, they would have to get credentialed.
You have a window.
Is there any person of that type that would meet that description being considered?
We've had applicants that would fit the non-traditional definition. We haven't made a decision yet.
Does that interest you?
But is there anybody like that in the pool of applicants?
That's
Can you
good.
say that?
That's good.
There were.
I mean, the current 17 that are left.
There were some non-traditional.
Wow.
Okay. So, but we'll see. The majority are educational backgrounds.
Now, it's difficult to choose a superintendent. Oftentimes people complain that superintendents stay one place for 3 or 4 or 5 years and then they move on. Is there any way to avoid that system? Is there any way of choosing someone that you might say maybe this person will stay with us for 10 years or something like that?
Hector, we're trying. I mean, that's one of the game. When I talk about character and commitment, the commitment side means they're here.
Yeah, you're not just here.
We want them here. We want them as a part of our community, and we want their
commitment.
Their commitment and their involvement in this community, and not just to be a stepping stone. I mean, we're the 10th largest district in the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. There's no reason it can't be the best district in the entire state.
Now, in today's paper, there's an article about Bowie High School and the effort to turn Bowie High School around. Now, you this last week you turned over to the TEA the internal audit, right? The private audit of the school district. What can you say about that audit, and particularly in relation to Bowie High School?
Well, they wanted some more data than we'd given them to begin with. I thought we'd given, frankly, the entire report and all of the documents and as backup. But it turned out that for legal reasons, we'd only given them a portion of it. And frankly, from my standpoint, we were originally supposed to have given it to them in April. It didn't occur. And we were about 60 days later than my personal timeline. I thought things had been handled and was following up with TEA. But this was, some of the legal concerns, and we got that handled a week ago. So TEA does have everything, and I've been following up, and I want to make darn sure they have everything they need to review and take any action that they deem appropriate from their standpoint.
880-4376. Our guest is Dee Margo, president of the El Paso Independent School District Board of Managers. Now, the fact that you're an appointed board is troublesome for many people. The fact that as an appointed board you're hiring the superintendent, some people feel like, well, these are positions that are normally held by elected officials. They wonder whether you should hire a superintendent or whether those elected officials should be involved. Are the elected officials that are currently sitting on the sidelines, are they in any way involved with the board? Are they being kept informed? Do they attend meetings? What is their status?
We agreed at the very beginning that there would be there was an appointed 19-member group with some of the former trustees that wanted to publicly vet the candidates for superintendent. The way they had it set up was initially that they would be the first level of or first rung on the ladder for that, and that
to evaluate the candidates.
Yeah, and that, frankly, with all due respect, didn't make sense. There's a confidentiality. There are many candidates who may want to come in and talk, but then they don't want it known that they're doing that for their own reasons back.
So you want to screen them first,
so
and
we're
then
going
let
to
them
screen
talk
them, and when we get down to our finalists, or one or two finalists, whatever we come up with, then we will have that group, and also in addition to the 19 that have already been appointed, we will include, I think, the 3 or 4 new elected trustees that were just recently elected in May, and so that they will all have a chance to have a meeting with the candidate we think is numero uno or.
But the elected those that were recently elected to board of trustees, they do not have a formal role, or they're not being formally consulted or
the board of manager,
kept informed.
No, the board of manager has replaced the trustees. All the rights and privileges of a trustee have been vested with us.
And you can be in place as long as 2 years or more?
I'm told up to 2 years.
Up to 2 years.
I'm told.
And at that time, they either have to renew you or let...
Hector, I don't know what goes on.
Don't
know. Because it hasn't crossed our mind that we would ever be any for longer than that.
Dee Margo is with us from El Paso Independent School District Board of Managers. We'll be right back.
I'm Jessica Clute, attorney at law. The law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates specializes in estate planning, probate, trusts, wills, powers of attorney, nursing home advocacy, Medicaid planning, and guardianships.
I'm Stephanie Townsend Ayala. Our attorneys, including Jennifer Coulter, my daughter Jessica, and I, are University of Texas Law School graduates. Jessica and I are also proud second and third generation University of Texas grads. Call the law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala at 533-0007.
After 65. Day after day, I'm more confused. Yet I look for the light through the pouring rain. You know that's the game I hate to lose. I'm feeling the strain.
KHRO 1150 AM Fox Oldies on the weekend. The Fox Talks. You're on the show with Hector and Abel with special guest Dee Margo, and we're going to go ahead and go straight to the phone line. Dee, we got a quick call, and we'll get back to what we were talking about. 880-4376 as we go talk to. Let's talk to Tom. Tom, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Margo. I'd like your opinion on why you think the process lends itself to corruption. And from your perspective, having been in there for the time that you're in, how would you change it?
Well, somebody said to me the other day that fish rots from the head down. I just, the character was not there. And it permeated. And I think it went on for a good while. We've got to be very diligent, not just in who we hire as superintendent and the people that superintendent hires, but the trustees we elect to the school board. They've got to meet standards of behavior and comportment and experience, capable of administering and overseeing I use the analogy of a member of a board of directors of a Fortune 1000 company, a $600 million company.
You better know how to deal with money.
You need to deal. Yeah, you need to have that. But it's human nature wherever it is. But we've got to, the standards have got to be set and they've got to be adhered to.
And how would you safeguard that? I mean, how would you ensure that those standards are achieved?
Well, we're trying to establish as many institutional guidelines and as much permanency as we can given the short period of time we're there. I've said on numerous occasions, in my own experience and as I observe from others and read about it normally takes about 3 years to change the culture of an organization. We have maybe up to 2 years. We'll do the best we can. Given that, we're making some changes related to the internal audit process, and we're looking at credit recovery, moving from the schools back into the central office, which was the issue that was the problem with Bowie and other schools. So, hopefully we can add some transparency, add some institutional controls, but at the same time, I don't want the tail wagging the dog. We can't do knee-jerk things just because we had bad actors in the past, and hopefully we'll be rid of those completely and have good people with good morals and good values and properly represent our not only the taxpayers but those kids in the school district.
I guess all of the school districts in the area have had pretty much the same problem, and the thing that's always concerned me is what is it that attracts bad people to school boards?
Hey, Tom, thanks for the call. Well, go ahead. He'll answer it, okay?
All right, bye-bye.
I mean, that's an interesting question, by the way.
We need an informed voting public, not just at the trustee level, but at every level we're voting for, whether it be our local city elections or our statewide elections.
And also candidates, right? The candidates need to be informed. Sometimes we get people as candidates who really don't really have any business in elected office, to tell you the truth. That may be one advantage of an appointed board such as the Board of Managers, right? That each person that is considered and appointed has a track record, a professional background, stability as a member of the community, where you don't always get that with elected officials.
Unfortunately, you're correct.
Well, you could say that having been both, right? Having been both an appointed and an elected official. Now, we talked a little bit about the audit that you all just turned over to TEA. I know some people have concerns about TEA itself, that they did not find the wrongdoing before when Superintendent Garcia was in place. Some people have concerns about whether he had cronies within TEA that were possibly covering for him. Are you having been appointed by TEA, do you see any problems with regard to TEA? Do they need to be looked into as well?
Well, first of all, the leadership of TEA with Michael Williams as commissioner. Michael came in September of last year, of 2012. He just walked in. He took over for Robert Scott. In the interest of complete disclosure, when I served in the legislature on appropriations, and Mr. Scott appeared before us, I was less than thrilled or enamored with him. We did not see eye to eye on a number of issues. I've known Michael Williams a number of years. He's a good man and highly capable, and he will do what he has to do to make sure that it's a performing. We've talked several times. I won't say I've talked to him once a week since I've been there, but close to that. So I feel very comfortable that they will address all of the issues that have the Weaver audit is putting forth as we continue to address those issues here in El Paso.
Now, you've also spoken to the FBI about their ongoing investigation.
That is correct. I personally have had 2 briefings by the FBI. It's not closed out yet. Hopefully it will be in the near future, but yes, they're still involved.
Now, it's my understanding that the previous board did not ever meet with the FBI. Is that correct?
That's what I'm told. I was told that they never requested a briefing by the FBI, and that was one of the first things we did request when we got in.
And so they had the FBI buzzing around all over the place investigating, and they did not say, would you sit down with us as a board of trustees? And
that's what the FBI's told me. And as I say, I personally have had 2 briefings from them.
And they would have done it if the board had asked.
That is correct. They would have.
Wow, that's interesting omission on their part. We're about ready to go back to the next break. Our guest is Dee Margo, president of the Board of Managers of Paso Independent School District. Call us at 880-4376.
We'll be back. You're on the show with Hector and Abel.
I feel that truly love.
What'd you say your call letters were?
KHRO El Paso, 1150 Oldies Radio, Fox AM.
More oldies to Fox.
I'm Stephanie Townsend Ayala. At the law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates, our attorneys, including Jennifer Coulter and my own daughter, Jessica Clute, fight for the nursing home and home health care rights of the elderly and disabled.
I'm attorney Jessica Clute. The law firm of Stephanie Townsend Ayala also specializes in estate planning, probate, trusts, wills, powers of attorney, nursing home advocacy, Medicaid asset protection, and guardianships. Call us at 533-0007.
Strange how you stopped loving me, how you stopped needing me when she came along.
KHRO 1150 AM, Fox Oldies. That's a good song, man. Who is that? You don't know?
Of course.
Well, you always look like you don't know.
Of course I know. I'm surprised that you don't know.
Dude, I was only born in 58. You were down there like 52, weren't you?
Patsy Cline.
Okay, Patsy Cline. I remember.
Cline. I've been listening to her since I was 4 years old.
880-4376.
Do we have a call on the line?
No, we don't.
Okay. We're talking to Dee Margo, president of the Board of Managers of EPISD, the state-appointed Board of Managers. Abel?
I'd like to ask you, Dee, I was at the meeting today of Los Que Van Quedando, which is the Cathedral High School alumni, and they had Dr. Natalicio on there, and they have some interesting, the way they present the university, and one of the things that she talked about in one of the slides was percentage of 2010 through 2011 high school graduates completing recommended and advanced high school programs, showing it rated amongst the state. I don't know if you've ever seen her presentation, but El Paso fared right up at the top, and also in graduation rates throughout the state, pretty level, even though if you go into categories of Hispanic or non-Hispanic or whatever, I'm sure it's, higher and lower, but, showing that high school education, even though it's really shot at, it's not that bad here.
Well, I do think we've taken a double hit with the problems and the fact that our former superintendent's in jail and things are distorted, and the media was going after the negatives, and they still are. We graduated 4,025 graduates in high school graduates in EPISD last year in 2013. We got a ways to go. UTEP is doing some things with the Bowie students that was in the El Paso Times today. Mm-hmm. I had a briefing on that last week. We're going to have that at our next board meeting in August and have that briefing. They're doing some good things. My children were graduates of EPISD. All went to college. All did very well. So there was but it's the performance in schools is critical to the economic viability of this community.
Absolutely.
We have to have a trained labor force, an educated and trained labor force. So whether the students from EPISD or any other independent school district here graduate and go to technical schools or go to community or get a 4-year degree, even going to community and beyond, it is critical.
Need to up all the levels of education.
We have got to up our level of education if we're going to attract the economic development we want and the capital investments. And remember, one of the dilemmas we have here in El Paso is that about 63% of our tax base is still residential, not commercial.
Exactly.
So we every time we, EPISD, as I reiterate, is not increasing taxes.
Thank you.
But their rate. But you look at the other entities. What was it? Community is going to have to raise it 8%.
Yep.
I hear that from everyone. Everybody's very concerned about all this.
And what's interesting about it, too, in the presentation by Dr. Natalicio was she's quoting that like 84% of the students at UTEP are from the El Paso area.
Right.
And out of that group, almost, I guess, more than half of them, median incomes of, she was saying, $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
So poverty, poverty is a big evil guy to education.
Right. And UTEP does a wonderful job. They do a masterful job as an open enrollment university. And that's their mission here. And academically, I would stack UTEP up with just about anybody, anywhere. And they're getting more doctorate programs. And one of the things I was always fighting for when I was in the legislature was UTEP and Texas Tech. And now we've got, Tech as a standalone, which is good for this community.
That's right.
But we're creating some real opportunities for the students.
Let's go back to the phone lines and let's talk to Jerome. Jerome, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead. Jerome, I know you're there. Let's see.
Going once.
10-second delay, so let's see if he shows up.
Going twice. Okay, well, I guess we're going to have to go
well, we'll see if he calls back. Okay?
880-4376 if you would like to.
Jerome, are you there?
The conversation.
No,
maybe it's the engineer error.
No, it was that one was a good one. I don't know what happened there. I will admit when I'm wrong, by the way, if I mess up.
We're talking right now about poverty as being and other factors. People often talk about, it's the parents, and it's like in education, everybody blames everybody else, right? The parents blame the teachers blame the parents, everybody blames the students. It's kind of like a blame game. What is El Paso Independent School District doing to bring more cooperation between the parents and the teachers and the school district? Because that's what it's going to take, right? It's going to take a community-wide effort. It can't just happen between the student and teacher.
Well, every school district is mandated to have parental involvement programs. The specifics of EPISD I'm not familiar with in what they're doing, but I do know it is a critical aspect.
Sure.
But I have gotten involved in the Alpha Initiative, which is to recover those disappearing students that were from Bowie, and which we've identified. And the legislature, Marissa Marquez and Senator Rodriguez did pass a bill related to those disappearing students, which I supported and we support as reinforcing what we're already doing at EPISD under the Alpha Initiative with Mark Mendoza. And I believe they've identified most of them. They're out there seeking them, trying to they're talking to them individually to find out what they need to do to help them graduate and get back on track if in fact they so desire to do that. And so that I know about. The parental involvement, the specifics of that I'm not aware of. I do know there is a program out there. But as I say, we're trying to take care of one priority at a time. A lot of these things will take care of themselves once we find a new superintendent. And because then we'll start, setting up processes and procedures, and which is the goal that we have as a board of managers, to make sure that superintendent and the teachers and principals and the EPISD are set up for success and not failure.
Let's go to the phone lines. I think we got Jerome back. Your phone's buzzing. KHRO 1150 AM, Fox Oldies. Go ahead, Jerome.
I'm starting to think it's
Jerome.
Engineer error.
No, I have it up. Let me try that one. Jerome, are you there?
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
I got three things. Dee Margo, good afternoon, and good afternoon program.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. I got 3 quick ones, Margo, and I'll hang up and listen with the response. The Brookings Institute completed a study back in, I believe, September of last year that talked about top 100 metropolitan areas and whether or not the education system was preparing them for post-secondary as well as entering the labor force. We came in 98th. I'd like you to speak to that, where that stands, if you're aware of it. Number 2, for those persons who were elected to office, are their terms concurrent with yours, or do their terms start after you vacate those seats up there? And then number 3, examine the wisdom of an oligarchy. I think either Hector or Abel mentioned the fact that some of our superintendents stay for a few years and then leave. But if we use the 3 assistant superintendents, elementary, middle, and high school, it lends itself to stability, vertical alignment, and planning, and it saves a salary. We could probably buy some teachers with what we save with a superintendent's salary. I hope I've not gone too fast, but I wanted to hurry up and get it out before my line cut off.
Hey, Jerome, thanks for the call.
Okay, to answer your first question related to the Brookings Institute study, no, I'm not familiar with it, but as we had our dialogue just before your question, we were talking about the importance of preparing our students for the workforce and college if they so desire, or technical school. So that is a priority, and we will continue to do that. Related to the the second question was I'm trying to remember which one was the second one. The third one was on the alignment and structure.
The second one was about the concurrent of the people that were elected.
Oh, yes. Okay. My understanding is that the trustees that were elected that have not been sworn in, their terms are like they would be normally during the time frame. They don't run. Our term is separate from theirs. So I don't know what else. Other than that, they're there. The same cycle continues whether they're sworn in or not. And lastly, the alignment on structure. I think the suggestion was have assistant superintendents and not one major superintendent, but over the others. That's not been looked at, and frankly, right now where we are, I would hate to get into that, but given the fact that I talked about the cabinet right now is mostly interim, and we've got to have some stability, and we need the right people in place.
Let's go back to the phone lines and talk to Lorenzo. Lorenzo, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead.
How's it going? Dean, I was going to ask you, if I would have done schooling differently, it would have been completely different, but I wasn't aware. But now I'm more aware. And these programs that you call like the Explorers Police Club, the Explorers Fire Club, the Fireman Club, are you guys going to bring these programs more active in the school district? I think these programs work. The sheriff, ride-along sheriff, Explorers Club for the kids, the police department, the fire department, and all the other civic departments. What do you think? It's going to be more active in this community or not?
Hey, Lorenzo, thanks for the call.
Lorenzo, I don't know. I'm not qualified to answer. I'm a believer in the Boy Scouts and the Explorers.
Yeah, I am an example, by the way, of the Explorers. By the way, right. I was in the Explorers when they first started way back in the 70s, and went to KROD TV a long time ago, dating myself. And there was like 38 kids that showed up.
Really?
So I believe in kind of what we're talking about, where if there's an interest, let's go see if it sticks. Well,
I was in scouting. I went to Philmont. I got my 50-miler hiking.
You went to Philmont? I did mine 50. I did it in the Gila.
So, but in junior achievement, that's right. Still taught. I taught it. My son teaches it now with our old firm, my former firm. Anything that we can do to continue to improve the educational outcomes of our kids and their experiences. This dual credit discussion today in the paper, that is critical. You've got AP and you got dual credit, and they're a little different. But can you think of the impact it has when you graduate and you've got 18 hours of college credits already under, what it does for you, not only in preparation, but the fact that the cost of that education just went down. That's over a semester.
Absolutely.
So you can walk in and do it. You're prepared. You're there. So, dual credit's important. We've got to have teachers with master's degrees to be able to teach dual credit, so we need to work on that and make sure we have enough.
Now, part of the plan at Bowie, according to the newspaper today, is to encourage students to become more involved in extracurricular activities. Now, question came up about whether you can require students to participate in extracurriculars, but certainly things can be done to encourage more participation. Having worked with high school students, I know that there are problems such as, for example, teenage pregnancy, which can be addressed by having more extracurricular activities, because that's why things such as teenage pregnancy occur, because there's not enough after-school activities or unsupervised before the parents come home. So hopefully there will be more of that.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Let's go talk to Susie. Susie, you're on 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead.
Hello, Hector, Abel, and Dee.
Hello, Susie.
I just want to say thank you, Dee, and all the other Board of Managers for taking on this task of fixing up the mess in the EPISD. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Appreciate it.
Because education is so important. And I just want to say to all of you, a big thanks, and a big thanks to Jose Rodriguez and Marissa Marquez and Naomi Gonzalez for doing what they can in the Texas legislature.
I agree with you.
Thanks, Susie.
Okay, thanks.
Now, Dee, when you were in the legislature and most recently when you ran for election, education issues did come up, and your way of looking at them was very different from your Democratic opponent. Do politics enter at all into, or political viewpoints and philosophies enter at all into the work you're doing now with the Board of Managers?
No, I don't think so, and frankly, I don't recall a discrepancy with Moody, other than the fact that he thought there should have been more money, and at the time we had no more money to give. So I don't think philosophically there was any difference.
Sure, you see yourself as being just as committed to education. It's more of a difference in the way in which schools should be funded.
Well, it wasn't a difference in a way they should be funded. It was the amount of funding.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And he took on the political. We had to do some serious cuts because the comptroller only allowed us X billions of dollars, and so, frankly, on the state level, it was only about, as I recall, something like $57 million was the total difference between 2009 and 2011, but there was about $3 billion less because of federal matching. Mm-hmm. So it was basically cuts. But quite candidly, the end result, irrespective of the political rhetoric at the time, I recall him saying there were all these teachers that were laid off and terminated, and that was not the case. That was a falsehood.
Speaking of teachers, are you able, as a Board of Managers, as an appointed Board of Managers, able to take initiatives such as, for example, considering giving merit pay to teachers, other initiatives that might address some issues relating to teachers or students? Or is your board more a thing of more like we're going to hold the fort until we fix things and then turn it back over to the elected officials?
No, we have all the rights and privileges of an elected trustee. We have supplanted the trustees
completely.
We are trustees, except our name is Board of Managers because we were appointed. So we can do whatever a trustee would do, and we do want to look at some way of rewarding teachers, successful teachers who have motivated students and who stand out. Mm-hmm. There's got to be a way. We haven't figured it out. No, we're not going to do anything related to the test scores, which is what got everybody into trouble before. But there's got to be some way, whether it be by degrees, masters and PhDs, or some form of
because when you get a master's degree, your salary doesn't significantly increase.
They don't do enough. No, I want to see more.
Sure.
I would like this. I think it's like $1,000. I mean, that's about it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to take the time and effort and make the commitment, then I think there ought to be a reward. But we also need to measure outcomes. How well are your students doing?
Sure.
And there are many ways to determine that.
Besides standardized tests, what is your view of standardized tests? I know that that in the legislature, the legislature voted to reduce the number of standardized tests. Are you in agreement with that? That we have too many tests and possibly too much emphasis on standardized testing?
Well, I'm in agreement of the changes that they made vis-a-vis House Bill 5 in the STAR test. And we had signed on when I was in the legislature on, I didn't think it should be counted as 15% of the student's grade. And so those changes occurred. I'm fearful of the pendulum going too far the other way. I do think we need some form of end-of-course exams.
Sure.
And, to me, the ACT and the SAT ought to be a part of that overall verification. Now, one of the dilemmas you have in the state of Texas is the 10th grade tax test or STAR test, I guess.
STAR test,
is what determines your annual or yearly progress for the No Child Left Behind Nickelby. Yet the 11th grade test is what we need in the state of Texas to determine your graduation. So there's really not an incentive. The 10th grade test is which got us all which got EPISD and the problems with the disappearing students and the ESL, et cetera. Something, and this is, I think, a legislative issue or an administrative issue through TEA. I'm not sure what the answer is, but to me, it ought to be a line. There's no incentive for those students to take the 10th grade test. So some show up, some don't. It's not just that. But
or some are asked not to show up.
And that was the problem that we're having. But and then the 11th grade is the one that you need for graduation. So there's an incentive there.
Sure.
So let's find a way to tie those incentives together. But I'm not sure I'm capable of doing that right now.
Let's go back to the phone lines and let's talk to Rosine. Rosine, welcome to 1150 Fox Oldies. Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon to all of you.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Dee Margo, what a fresh breath of air when you became state rep. Because unfortunately, the majority of people in El Paso will toss out a decent, common-sense, conservative candidate for the loyalty of the Democrat Party.
No.
She makes a point.
You're not going to get an argument out of me. I voted for Democrat.
You made him smile. He's smiling.
People need to be informed and vote for the person they think's most competent and capable.
Exactly, because you know what? I usually go before I vote. I call the city of where the town of where I live, the city hall of where I live, and I ask them questions about what the candidates stand for before I toss my vote.
So, what do you think right now of the educational system, the way it is right now? You think that Dee's doing a good job and keeping it real?
Yes, I do think so, but he has not been in too long, has he?
May the 8th is when we were sworn in.
98?
May 8th of this year.
May 8th of this year.
3 months ago.
Well, I mean, I'm pleased with the education that my granddaughters are getting, but the thing is, one of the things that I have noticed is that they don't teach much history, and like, for example, I have noticed, like, for example, the Socorro School District, that's what the district that I belong to, the waste. I see so much waste. One time they sent me a letter that invited me to the parents to a little conference at the school at North Desert Wind. And it was just, they gave away some little real cheap backpacks. And I'm thinking, my God, I mean, how much did the taxpayers spend on those little backpacks?
Is there waste?
What was the reason for that?
Hey, Rosine, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Is there waste that you guys are identifying? Is that one of the areas that you guys are looking at, or is that pretty much under control? I mean,
no, we're looking at it, and it's got to be done on a daily basis. And even if you, quote, had it under control, unquote, you've got to continue to look at it.
It's got to be monitored.
We've got a fiscal responsibility as a part of our fiduciary responsibility. And so we're looking at things and cutting. One of the things that drives me nuts at EPISD is the legal fees.
Right.
Kind of high.
And some of that's driven by the processes that are required.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, what do you say to a parent, or what do you say to a taxpayer who pays the taxes. He's paid them all the time. He's, and like you said, the biggest chunk of the tax bill in Central is the EPISD part of it. What do you say to a parent that says, why is it that every time this time of year comes around, they're asking me for more paper, more pens, help me with some backpacks? You would think that the taxes would cover, all that stuff, all that equipment that's used to teach, and yet you got school drives all the time. And is it that bad that they need that stuff?
Abel, I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I know that there are certain teachers that need extra supplies and things, and to the extent that they ought to be coming as a normal part of the budget, I'm all in favor of it.
When you pay for, you pay your taxes and they don't come back and say, we're going to have a drive for more natural gas well pumping or drilling or anything.
Well, we haven't gotten into the weeds to that extent. I talked about the financial, and we had to go along with what was recommended, but we're continuing to get into it.
All right.
All right, we're about at the end of today's program. I want to thank you, Dee Margo, for having joined us today.
Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Abel.
Is there anything you want to leave us with as far as where you think we'll be even 6 months from now?
Well, just to tell your listeners, I think we're getting close on the superintendent search. Okay. I think we're within a few weeks of being able to have somebody, one or two people brought before a public group to determine that.
Any possibility that the finalist may be a local person?
There's always that possibility.
So the majority of candidates, I would assume, are from out of town, though.
That is correct. We've vetted 17 so far, and we're keeping it open.
Now, will the finalists, the last two or three, go before the public?
Yes.
All right, very good. Want to thank also Playmate of the Year, Raquel Pomplun, for having joined us, and of course our frequent contributor, Stephanie Townsend Ayala, and thanks to all the callers.
Well, man, these 2 hours fly by every time, and I have a feeling that we're going to be looking at a 3-hour show. And first of all, it's because of the listeners. A lot of people listen to us. A lot of people that, like we always say, don't want to call, but we know they're listening and they're out there. And we love you guys.
Thanks also to Stephanie Townsend Ayala and Associates, attorneys at law, for supporting the show.
Yeah, and if you want, by the way, if you want to buy some time on the show, we're more than happy to help you out. You can call me at 231-2469, and we'll set you up. We got some good rates down here, and I will tell you, the station is now sitting on a 2.0 for an AM to have a two share. We'll take it, and we're happy because of the listeners, and of course, the oldies help a lot too.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you again next week.
Okay, raza. As you know, what I always say. Te guacho, raza!